Usually this is the point where we set up a joke for the end of the show, but since this is the beginning of season 2, I wanted to take a moment and thank everyone who has been watching the show and extend a huge thank you to the Arts Collaboratory for helping facilitate this show. Our goal is to showcase the many amazing facets of the arts community in Buffalo and beyond. We believe that self-expression is the first step towards building a more empathetic world. When a person expresses themselves and shares that expression with their world, it creates room for others to do the same. It also creates room for listening and reflecting on the experiences of another person, which creates a commonality and shared experience. Through this show, we have been able to connect with a variety of engaged, intelligent, thoughtful, and compassionate artists, providing an insight into how the effects of the present context we are collectively faced with are influencing their creative work in our community. We hope that this effort will enable a deeper pathways of exchange on both interpersonal and communal levels. Thank you so much for taking this journey with us. Onward and upward.
I can't stand when my wings start to hit the cage. My neck shrinks in its length. My eyes get keener. A cry minimizes in size. These claws still cleaner. This cage you've made can't seem to fit the beast. She used to be so cute. She was much sweeter. Jokes made about being so tame. She schemes the sweep. What got bigger, the bird or the cage? What gets smarter, the heart or the brain? What gets meaner, your eyes or this leash? What's a sure thing? The breeze. What got bigger, the bird or the cage? What gets smarter, the heart or the brain? What gets meaner, your eyes or this leash? What's a sure thing? The breeze. Captive, while I've been captive, contemplating escape, free from your reign in this cage, trapped. I stepped into and snapped. Oh, love's inside. The answer is why.
If we could talk a little bit about your history and how that led to being able to create such a beautiful piece of music.
I am born and raised in theater. My mother, Lorna Hill, artistic director and founder, one of the founders of Ujima Theater Company. That's like my whole life. Radical in its love and its justice and its warmth and understanding and unconditionalness. And it was also incredibly radical in its means of art and honing your craft and your discipline for your craft and how truly it is your box and no one else's. Just learning how to take that seriously, but also finding the joy and the love and the honor in doing so.
How did you get into the practice of like doing the loop a cappella stuff?
I love music, right? And I consider myself a lover of sounds more than the voice anyway. Like I've always, like my mother introduced me to Manhattan Transfer and a lot of Bobby McFerrin's deep cuts and, some of, Marvin Gaye's a cappella stuff before he added his instrumentation and Zap Mama and, list goes on and on and on of all these people who use voice as instrumentation. So yeah, I always had a deep love for it. And then I was introduced 7 years ago to the great and honorable Reggie Watts. And I thought to myself, wow, that is a really awesome idea. But I didn't really make it a thing that could happen to me immediately. For whatever reason, it felt kind of far away, like a never really my opportunity thing. And so I started kind of messing around more with GarageBand on my laptop, just layering in me doing exactly what I ended up doing, which is looping. I have really found my joy and my calling.
Yeah.
You know, and it really all came together. That's in the time that I wrote Bruja and Cleveland and, you know, all of those things that are like, you know, fun to look back on now because they very much are the very beginning stages of something that has become such a integral part of my life that I can't even imagine stop doing it. I love loop pedaling very much. I don't ever want to stop.
No, it's amazing. If you could just talk a little bit about the inspiration behind some of those lyrics, it would be awesome.
Sometimes I don't even know the importance of the work until after I do it.
Yeah.
Because I really just let my mind and my spirit move at the same time without any halts, you know. So Birdcage was the bass line first. Doom, 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 doom. And it's like, you know, when I hear a bass line like that, it feels very contemplative. I kept seeing something that felt like a woman or a person that also has wings inside of a cage in a room with other beings with wings inside of cages. And in all of that, you become someone who adapts, or a thing that adapts to the space you're in, but it's not conducive. It's not going to bring you any growth. And, you know, what got bigger, the bird or the cage? What gets smarter, the heart or the brain? You know, you easily find yourself in a situation where you're moving with your heart and you should move with your brain, or vice versa. You know, what gets meaner, your eyes or this leash? You know, what will hurt more, the hold that society has on me, or the way you look at me for being who I am? You know, what's a sure thing? The breeze. Well, what do I know I have to do is be free of all of this.
The old men.
The men in the house were old, like the women. They were brothers, not twins, but shared an identical love for anything wet and 80 proof. Sober, they were quiet. One humble, one proud, both quiet. Drunk, one begged the prophet for remedies and cried the blues, naming his estranged wife. I rocked him and kissed him and told him sweet things. I was good and made him good by loving him. He gave me treasures in exchange for my promise that I'd take care of him in his old age. On his free days, drunk or sober, he'd take me to magic places with people in costumes and fast rides and animals in cages and incredible gardens. Drunk, the other told secrets revealed by hallucination, ate hot peppers by the jar and jelly by the spoon. He called me Big Chief, taught me to play games of chance, and took me to the beer gardens where I drank soft drinks, and then finally held his hand and led him home. The saints were appalled. A child should not be left in the care of drunks. He might lose her. But just like they always knew where she had hidden the 80 proof, they always knew where I was.
My name is Gabriel Bump, and this is a chapter from Everywhere You Don't Belong. Sometimes, when it's morning and we're both tired, I stare across the table and see Janice again in the back seat. I see her hair rattling in the wind. I feel my hand on her knee held there for hours and miles. I see her on the beach, picking up empty shells. I hear her kicking sand. I smell salt on her shoulders. I turn to her. Whenever the future frightens me, the present frightens me. The past ambushes my peace and sleep doesn't come. When the sun rises and Janice looks right at me, I see them all in her eyes. Grandma and Paul, happy, laughing, waving, safe. Everyone in South Shore, safe and happy. They're okay without us. They forgive us for leaving. We're okay too. Yes. Right where we belong. Thank you.
Welcome to How Now. Thank you so much for being here, dude. It's an absolute pleasure. The new book, Everywhere You Don't Belong, is out, and you can get it anywhere. It's a fantastic read. So thank you so much, Gabriel.
Thanks for having me, dude. I got my first haircut in like 4 months just for this occasion. I'm mainly thinking about like just the protests that kind of sprung up from George Floyd's murder, right? And like there's that section in the book, right? Like that riot section that I actually stayed away from reading, like when I was doing promotional stuff, and like didn't really talk because I was like, oh, this book is about like more than just the violent experience of being like a Black person in America, right? Like kind of like complicating it. But like since the last couple months, I've like read it a few times, and it's like, I don't know, man. Like I wrote that 5 years ago, right? And it's like the exact same.
Dude, it's
the exact same thing.
The thing that I love about the characterization is that everyone is incredibly human, and they're incredibly real, but they're also so funny. Like, so funny, dude. It's tragic, but it's also full of humor, and I think that those are some of the, in our lives, like the tragic moments are, when you look back at them, are the most charged with the potential for laughter,
Yeah, what is it? It's like comedy is just tragedy plus time or something, right? Like that old equation. And I mean, I think that like the humor in the book, and then the characters like coming off as kind of complete humans, right? Like are really connected intentions, like at least for me, right? Like there's a lot of heavy stuff that happens in this book.
Totally.
Right? Like kind of in every part of Claude's Law, there's a lot of like heavy stuff that it's hard for people to process, right? And what I wanted the humor to achieve is just people like being unable to like process all this tragedy and like saying weird stuff and like behaving in these really surreal ways. Like there aren't many like jokes in the book, right? Like it's not like people like delivering like one-liners, really. Like there are no like set-up jokes. It's just people acting like ridiculous in inappropriate moments, right? Which I think more accurately mirrors the humor we see in our everyday lives, like the stuff we see that just makes us laugh. So for me, when Claude goes to work for the college newspaper, right? He wants to be a journalist. It was important that I focused like a lot of my energy on trying to explain like what it's like to be the only Black person in a room in that kind of situation, whenever they're looked on as having to like explain race to everybody. And like it's not even that Claude's like an expert on this thing, right? Like Claude's not an expert on race. He's just a Black body that has had like experiences he's internalized and has informed it. But being put in this position as like expert is something that he just wants nothing to do with. Like you can see it how like shallow it is.